Hey peeps, welcome to my channel. So this is the December episode of Card Hoppin, monthly themed year of fun things and techniques brought to you by the Facebook group Handmade Happiness. And this month's theme was using embossing powders or paste using the theme winter. So I decided to make 2 cards, and I'm using my embossing folder from Sizzix, and I'm going to use the deboss side, not the raised side, but the side that's debossed or inward. And I'm using my Versamark ink to ink up this entire page. And let me tell you a little bit about the hop. So each month they use a different theme or technique. This month's theme is winter, as I said, and I decided to use this winter themed or this snow themed embossing folder. So you ink up the entire embossing folder with the Versamark ink. Make sure you have good coverage. And then I place my cardstock inside, run it through my die cutting machine, and here we are. So I'm using this Recollection Marine embossing powder, beautiful blue color, and this is what I'm going to get my effect with. So I sprinkle it liberally to get good coverage, knock off the excess. Really love how it pops on that white cardstock, very pretty. And I love embossing. The trick to using your heat embosser is to make sure you have the gun hot already. So I had it warming to the side. So now I'm just melting the powder to the cardstock. And you heat it up and you move it in different directions. Try not to stay focused on one area too long so it won't burn. And it gets hot. It does get hot, so I had to grab a clothespin that I had nearby to hold on to the cardstock while I'm embossing it and melting that powder. And you can see where it melts because it picks up a shine in that area. And once I have this together, this will be my top panel for my card, one of the cards I'm making. So I think I did pretty good with that. So I got good coverage. And so that's my product. So we want to make sure you clean that embossing ink, that Versamark watermark ink off your folder. So this is my finished piece, and I decided to cut this down because I need it for my mini slimline cards that I'm making. So to cut it down to 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, because the size of the embossing, the side of the card is 3/6 folded. And I'm just trimming off the edges. I need to change the blade on my trimmer, so I had to trim the edges from that. And yeah, the cards got a little bent from the heat, but it's okay. Once I put the foam and adhere to the base, it'll be fine. And here I just decided I may use a couple of snowflakes, and I punched these out of cardstock with my Martha Stewart punch. Just looking at it and trying to decide if I wanted to add those or not. I always like to add a second element on my cards or projects. It's hard for me to create something flat. But so I'm just playing around with it to see if that's a good idea or not. And then I knew I wanted to use this Stamps of Life by Stephanie Bernard, this die set. And I used the Season's Greetings from this die set. I just picked this up from HSN, I believe. Yes, and I decided to cut the shadow and the sentiment itself. I cut the shadow out of a more matte finish of silver paper than the other out of the glitter. So I ran those through my die cutting machine, and it came out, and those dies, Stamp of Life dies, did cut very well. just having to poke out a few pieces with my 4-in-1 tool. And I like here, adhering it to the shadow. So this is a little trick I saw in a video, and it works pretty good. Put a little glue on the back of your hand and then just dab it in the glue. That way you can get just enough to cover it and not have too much oozing out of the sides like you would normally do. I got a little bit, so I just took my napkin and picked up the extra that came out, but that was a really good idea. So I grabbed the punch, and I decided I think I'm gonna punch some of the snowflakes out of this glitter silver paper. So I punched a couple of those, put those in the background, and then put my sentiment, popped it up on foam. So I had this little piece of strip from when I cut the panel down. So I decided I would use this for the inside of my card just to give it a little finish. So I had to add my base to the card, mat the inside where you could write a sentiment or stamp another sentiment if you like. Then after that, I adhered the little panel piece there. I thought it gave a nice finish to the card. So be sure you check out all the ladies that are involved in this collab. I will list them down below. You are here at Crafts I Heart's channel, and it's a group of us participating, and I'm excited to be a part of this. There are plans for it to continue next year, and I would like to join. So hopefully that will continue on. So here I'm making my second card, and I decided to use this Gina Marie's stitched rectangle die, and I wanted to cut through both the panel and the base. So I placed it, and I'm going to use some washi to keep it in place while running through the die cutting machine. Keep it in place, and I'm taping both the panel and the base together so they won't shift during the running through the machine. And they came out, they cut beautifully. So I'm just carefully peeling off the washi tape. And there's my panel. So after I have my two pieces, I'm ready to do my embossing. So I'm going to use the stamp that came with that Sizzix embossing folder, and I'm going to use my stamping tool. This is my Tim Holtz. And the one thing I love about it, it has two sides. It has a clear and it has a rubber side. So I had switched the plate around to use the rubber side because the rubber stamps are a little thicker than more of your polymer stamps. So I positioned my frame on my platform, and I decide, since it's a little shorter than the actual piece, I'm going to stamp part of the panel first and then stamp the other side. And I try to get a good impression the first time. So I just position it and get my Versamark ink and cover that part of the panel. Hoping to get a good impression the first time out. But me being who I am, I always go back over twice. So I ink it up again and add a little more ink just to be sure I didn't miss any spots. So after I've gotten that portion done, I move my magnets and place the stamp where the pencil line was to get the other portion of the base. And after I have that stamped, I'm ready to do my embossing. Make sure you clean off your platform and your stamp right away because of that ink. And the ink, the embossing powder I'm using for this particular one, I'm using this this Nuvo embossing ink, and this is in embossing powder. This is in silver. Really pretty color. So it was my first time using it, so I had to open that up. So once I got that open, I literally sprinkled it. I try to be careful with it, but really, I think, especially with something like this, you can try your best to get to save and conserve, but it's so much of it. I don't think you'll go through. I don't think I'll go through this bottle of embossing powder that quickly. So I try to, and I'm just using a brush to try to brush in some areas where I didn't want the powder to be. And after I get those cleaned up, and it's to my liking, I pour the excess back into the jar. And now I'm ready to heat emboss. I already have my heat gun hot and ready to go. I just started embossing this panel. And I love the outcome. Look at that shine. Isn't it pretty? So after I get that done, I was debating whether or not I was going to make a shaker, or if I was just going to adhere a panel or two to the inside of this. So I decided to make a shaker. So I'm adhering a piece of the silver glitter cardstock to the back, and then I'm adding glue across the entire panel to add another piece to finish it. So you would see and would have a clean finished look. And I just took my bone folder and ran across it to make sure it was secure. Had a little piece that popped up, so I added a little bit of glue underneath and used my napkin to wipe up any excess that may have oozed out. And when I was happy with that, I was ready to add my foam tape. And these are some 3D strips that come from Scrapbook Adhesive. And I believe I got these from scrapbook.com. And I love these strips. They're perfect for shakers. So I take 2 for each side and place them all around the perimeter of this rectangle. So once I have it like I need it, and it's okay if there's some excess, you won't even see that. I get my shaker mix, and I decide to go with some clear pieces that I had in my stash, along with a silver that I had. And this has a hint of blue in it. It has some stars, some iridescent pieces. So I added a good bit of that. Then I came back and added some of that Nuvo silver sequin. I love making shakers. One thing I find though, I always tend to either not add enough or add too much. So it's a balance. You have to get the middle, get in the middle of adding just the right touch. So then after I added some foam pieces to level out the card, and then I'm adding my piece of acetate to cover over that. And now I'll add some glue on top of that piece of acetate to adhere the top panel. And I'll see all that is covered. All you see is the cute little shaker window. Get it lined up perfectly. Place it. And now after that, I let that sit and dry a minute or two. I cut out my sentiment from this matte silver cardstock, and part of it cut away from the rest of the sentiment. So what I did, I just took a very tiny bit of glue and added to one of the letters, and then just glued them together. Perfect. Use my tool here to make them stick together. Then I just adhered that to the side of my card and made sure that was down and secure. And there's my card, my finished look. So of course, me being who I am, I have to have just a little touch of bling. So I added these gemstones in certain places, and as you can see, I'm picking them up with my fingers. I could have used my tool. I don't know, it's just something I just seem to work better with my little fingers, better than any tool. So there's my first one finished, and I added some rhinestones to that one as well. You can see how that pops. Really cute. And here's this one that says Happy Holidays, and you can see I love that silver embossing, really pretty. And I think that screams winter as too. So thank you for watching. Be sure to check all the ladies out, and I'll see you in the next video.